I noticed when I was changing the alternator recently that there was a lot of oil just behind here, and when I removed this cover, I discovered that it was actually coming from this unit here. And I sprayed this area with a whole load of brake cleaner, and it washed a lot of it away. But you can see that there's oil build-up around it. It looks like the mating surface is leaking. There's a bit of wet oil at the bottom here. And when you take off this connector here, you can see that there's a bit of oil in there as well. Now you have to be careful with this because the oil can actually track up inside the cables. It sort of wicks up inside, actually next to the copper behind inside the insulation. So we've got to be really careful about that, and I might need to sort that out by stripping back and doing some tinning of the cables just to stop that getting up to the ECU. But I'm going to take this unit off, I'm going to strip it down, and I'm going to see if I can put it back together and improve the seals inside it. So first I'm going to just remove the temperature sensor. I've actually got a new temperature sensor because I noticed this one's a bit wiggly, and I think it might fail soon. It's very close. To get into it, you kind of have to be at an angle, and it puts pressure on the side of it. So when I put this in here, you can see it's not completely straight. It'll just loosen these off. I'm going to change the sensor in front afterwards. At the moment, I'm just worried about this. It's actually a magnetic sort of camshaft adjustment, I think. But perhaps something has to do with the ignition timing. I need to look it up. But either way, it's leaking. We need to do something about it. You can see it's quite loose. It's not like it's stuck on there or anything. Not great. Maybe an Allen key on this would mean that it's less thick coming past this sensor. Might be a way of getting it off. Now, these screws look like they've been thread locked. A tip for putting it back on. You don't want it to get loose. So maybe I'll do that too. There we go, last of my bolts, and then this should come off like so, which it does, and there it is, and you can see a bit of oil inside there, a bit of oil there. I'm going to have to clean these surfaces up with some emery cloth before I refit it, once I've got it sorted. Anyway, for now, we'll head into the workshop. Okay, so before I go any further, I'm just going to try and clean some of the muck off this with some more brake cleaner. Oh, there we go. There's the part number if you need it. There we go. That's A11105100077. This product was made by a binder, by the looks of it. Whoever binder are. You can see on here there are three rivets. These are aluminium rivets, and I should be able to drill them out. So I think that's going to be my next job. A lot of brake cleaner in there that's coming through. Obviously a problem with the seals. I think most people just throw these away, but I did read on a forum that you could repair inside. That's what we're going to do. That was on Ben's World, if you want to look it up. Right, let's drill them. Just going to get a centre spot on these before we go on further. drilling them is going to be a challenge otherwise. Oh yes, they are soft. I think I can probably just drill the heads off these and then push them through. I'm also thinking that I don't need to put rivets back here because the whole thing is held on by the bolts that go all the way through. Right, see how we go. As I went to take it off the drill, it just kind of fell apart in my hand, and you can see inside there there's a gasket that's loose, and there's a gasket on this part too. And they're all a bit crappy. So what have we got? Well, we've got this ring in here that's attached to the socket. And that's the electrical component. I guess power is put on this, and when it energizes, it creates a magnetic field. That would be logical. Not sure how oil is getting into this to then get down the connections. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's seeping up the housing and going in that way. Just don't know. But I'm looking at this and not seeing anything untoward. Exciting. We have this part, which has this sort of gasket on it here. Just mopping some oil off it. See, I could improve this by putting some gasket making material underneath it to help it seal. That would be sensible. It's quite a thin thing. So we'll dry these off and just get some more kitchen roll. Maybe put it all under here. Yeah. Try and keep these things free of dust. Just going to clean these off so that we can see what we're dealing with. Nice little rubber gasket there. Okay, and then we have the original mating component. This is the inside part. So oil can obviously get inside this, and that can but theoretically it shouldn't be able to get through between the two. I don't know, maybe that's well, that is curious, isn't it? It looks as though it's got one of these either side of this, so this is sandwiched between two gaskets, that being one of them. So if I were to put some more gasket material underneath this, I could make a thicker gasket, squeeze the whole thing together. Hopefully I could create some new seals. That's just another gasket that looks exactly the same. Might be slightly different, I have to be a bit careful. But yeah, it's not covered in icky oil. clean these up as best I can. Might spray these with a bit of brake cleaner to clean them off. Just trying to see what's underneath the oil at the moment. It's just a rubber gasket. Rather old and tired one. I guess it has pressurised oil squirting around it all the time. It's the end of the camshaft after all. I think there's a component that this magnet is pulling in and out, which is obviously changing something on the camshaft. Okay, so 2 gaskets. That one goes with that one, like so. This one goes with this. I'll clean this out as well. I've got some marking inside here. Oh, that's scraping off with my nail. That's interesting. Definitely need to clean these out. Anyway, I'm going to have a bit more time cleaning these, and then I'll go through the reassembly with you. Got a bit of fine wire wool. And wire wool's not such a clever idea with cars because you don't want bits of wire wool stuck inside, but this is actually pretty good for getting inside this and getting rid of that mark. And what I can see when I do this is there's a bit of a groove inside here. It's almost like the camshaft component is coming out and wearing away at the end of this. I guess maybe that's part of what's happened with the wearing on it, but we'll see. I'll carry on with my cleaning. That's taking that off rather beautifully. So I think I'll use my wire wool sparingly and then rinse stuff off with brake cleaner to get rid of any fibres that are left. Right, I'm just going to use a bit of emery cloth on this mating surface that's going to go back on. I'm reluctant to use it inside here. We've got some more of this black, which I might get the wire wool on, but emery cloth is a bit harsh. Let's see how we get on here, because this will have some gasket making material. The previous gap was filled with, well, seemingly nothing, but I suspect that there is a need for a gasket material to go in between. So I'm just going to clean this up using my emery cloth. This is 120 grit, which is probably about as rough as I want to use for this. There we go. Yeah, it's quite a coarse one, but it'll do. And inside here, I'll use a bit of wire wool again. This is very fine wire wool. Just go around the inside here, you can see that very easily brings off the black that's got stuck on there. There we go, just take that round. I'll give it a quick spray with brake cleaner after, just to make sure there's no fibres left on it. Give it a wipe off. I don't really want wire wool in the engine. There we go. Brake cleaner. Just rinse that off. New bit of cotton roll. There we go. So I think all these bits are now clean. Just pop my bits onto here. Right. And I'm going to need to start building this up again. So it looked, when it was assembled, it had a gasket in there, like so. It has this electromagnetic coil which goes inside like that, and then the whole thing sits together like so. I've just put it that way, but it could potentially go like so. Yeah, it isn't, it's not handed, so it can go any way around. But we know that that wasn't really clamping together tightly enough to stop the oil escaping. Now, it was either escaping from this mating surface or from between the two, or it was seeping out from around the electromagnet. I don't think it was getting into the electromagnet. There's no signs of anything having done that. So I'm going to assemble this with some gasket making material. Now for this, the forum I read said that they'd used Permatex oil resistant gasket maker. It says it's RTV silicon. It's a sort of high temperature oil resistant product. So yeah, that's what I'm going to use. Okay, so here's my tube, which I'm just going to pierce. And it says to put a sort of 2 to 6 millimeter bead around the surface. So I'm just going to do a little bead around here that's going to go underneath my gasket. There it is. Just a bit like that. Then I'm going to put my gasket on it. Like that. And that'll squish down. Now some of that might squish out the sides and go between the plates, and that's fine. Just going to squeeze that down a bit, like so. Don't think it really matters if it comes out the sides a bit. That's fine. I'm going to do the same. This one here. I'm going to... can't get in there. Tell you what. Let's put it on the gasket. And I can drop the gasket in. There we go. Remember, this is going on the outside of the gasket. So the gasket's going to touch against the electromagnet, as it always did, and that will make the seal with the electromagnet as it's designed to. All I'm doing is sealing the gaskets to the metal components with some gasket material to make the whole thing a bit thicker. So I don't want any of this on the inside, just want it to touch against the outside of this. So I'm going to pop that in there, like so, and there it is, that's gone down in there. Now, theoretically, I can pop this into here, that sits there on my gasket. I can see a little bit of gasket material coming out side there. I'm just going to pop that out. See if I can get in the way. There was a little bit that came off the side there, so just going to take that away with a little screwdriver. I'm sure the camshaft component will take it away very quickly when it goes into operation, but just to try and keep that clean. There we go, that's gone now. So, pop this back in here. There it is, that's in there. And now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to pop this back together like so. Now theoretically, this could squeeze together with some weight, and it would then be doing the job rather beautifully. I'm slightly concerned about adding much weight to it, because obviously I want to tighten it up a bit when we come to fit it on the car using these sort of bolt holes, which would be rather cunning. But it was riveted originally, which kind of makes me think perhaps we should. Tricky to know what to do, but I'm quite happy to stick a weight on this and let it dry off like that, I guess. There we go. Right, so that's got a weight on it. Let's come back when it's dry. We're back sometime later. I did actually put a smear of the ultra black between the two mating surfaces of this as well, so it's actually sort of sandwiched some of the gasket material too. So there we go. Right, let's go and fit it on the car. Okay, so we're back at the car. I'm going to just tuck these cables out of the way, if I can. And see all this material here. We need to try and clear that away. So I can try some degreaser first, just to see. See if it will help it to come off. It certainly makes it cleaner. There's still quite a lot of baked on muck. Now you can see my sensor is really falling apart here. So it will still work. I can see the probe is just coming through, but it's obviously snapped the plastic, so I'm going to change that later. Let's get some emery cloth. Just get in here with the emery and clean this away. That's good. It's making short work of that. There we go. Right, beautifully clean. Now I can put some gasket making material onto the onto my item. There it is, and I can refit it back onto the head. So, gasket maker. There it is. Just going to run this around in here. Like so. I've heard some people have used O-rings to do this, which may well work. You try whatever you think is best. And this now can go back over this where it originally came from. Trying to line up the bolts as we go, which is about there. There we go. Let's pop these back in. I'm not going to tighten it up quite yet. I'm just going to get these bolts in. This one that we know is hidden behind the sensor, in there. Oh, just trying to cross the thread because it doesn't want to go in straight because the sensor's in the way. Good job I got a new sensor. Maybe good advice is take this sensor out first, but then you might be draining some of the coolant system. With a new one I can swap it over quickly and hopefully not lose much coolant. That's that. Just tighten this up here. And then the top one I'm going to tighten up like so. I've got a really small ratchet that I'm going to put on this. So I'm just going to give it a tweak with the small ratchet. This doesn't want to be terribly tight. There we go. And the last one. There we go. Bear in mind it's an aluminium block, so you could strip these threads really quite easily. And that kind of is it, really. Except, obviously, I need to do my thermometer. But the other thing I was going to do was strip the cables on this, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that to tin these so that the oil can't pass up the cable. It can't wick up the cable. I talked about that earlier. So I'll go and get my soldering iron, and I'll start playing the cables. I'm going to disconnect the battery now. It may have been prudent to do this before unplugging the two connections to the thermometer and the cam magnet, but no matter. There we go. The car is now dead. Okay, so this is the connection I need. I'm going to strip back the covering sleeving on this. Just cut it back to expose the cables. What I'm looking to do here is just trim back the sleeving on them in different places so that if it does come adrift it won't short itself out. And peel this back. Unfortunately you can't get any sort of heat shrink or anything on it, so I'm gonna use just use insulating tape on this, which isn't brilliant, but I'll try and do it as well as I can. Now I'm going to separate these two wires, and I need to cut them back without cutting through the copper. So I just want to clear the insulation, which I'll try and do very gently with my wire cutters. So you can start to see I've exposed it there. But I'm going to do this without squeezing it very hard. I'm just going to push back the insulation and tease it away. It's quite a tricky thing to do. Some people try and use knife blades. There we go, that's worked rather well. But if you're careful with your wire cutters, you can just tease it back like that. There we go. Now there's no evidence of oil in that wire, which is brilliant. I'm going to do the same thing with this one down here. See if I can. Tease, tease, tease. Tricky, fiddly little job getting through the insulation without damaging the cable. Now this one, when you look at it, it's actually a darker colour than the other one, and that's because the oil has got that far. So there we go, two nice examples. One is nice and shiny, the other is not, and that's because the oil has started wicking up this cable. Hoping that won't stop me being able to solder it. We'll have a go. I get this sheathing out of the way. It's starting to drive me nuts. There you go. Right. I've got some tissue as well. See if I can soak out any oil. I'm not sure it will. You're going to have to rely on the flux in the solder to do the cleaning work. But the idea is that once you solder all these cores together, the oil can no longer soak up between them. It's all these little strands of wire. That's what I mean when I say cores. I have my soldering iron. I'm going to touch it onto the top one first. It should be really easy. Just make sure that this, there we go, so it's nice and hot. Let's heat up this wire and get some solder on it. There we go. And that's what we call tinning. So I've tinned the wire. Well, obviously it's not with tin, it's more lead than tin, but that should stop the oil from wicking up the cable, which is fantastic. I'll try the lower one. This one might be harder because of the oil contamination. It seems to be working. Right, just get rid of the excess. Yeah, that's working. So there we go. Both wires are now tinned, which is fantastic. You can see they're different places, so if they were to touch together, it's not going to short it, which is brilliant news. Let's just put my soldering iron over here. And unplug it. Now what I'm going to do is get some insulation tape and just see if I can tape these off so that they're protected from shorting. Just going to wrap this round like so. I'm going to do the same with the other one, and then what I'll do is I'll put that protective sleeve back over, and I'll tape that to fix the fact that I've torn it all the way along its length. So there we go. Wrapping the tape. These can then go back inside their protector, like so. And what I'll do is I'll get my insulation tape. I'm going to try and pull this tight and stretch it as I go. So we'll go at the bottom, and I'm going to wrap it around tightly, like so. And I'm going to continue to pull on it quite tightly as I go, and take it up the cable. And by doing that, I'm wrapping all of that and protecting it again, so I know it's done. There. Perfect. Finished. Now, if any oil does come into this socket from in here, it now can no longer go up the cable. And that is there. It's connected again, ready to go. Obviously this one can go back on here, but I'm actually going to change this sensor before I do, and then we're going to leave this overnight, and I'll start it up tomorrow and make sure we don't have any leaks. Right, as you can see, I've replaced the thermometer probe, and we've actually left this car now overnight, and hopefully the gasket making material will have settled, and yeah, hopefully we can start this up and see if there's any leaks. So there we go. Well, nothing so far. I'm going to let this run for a while, but I'm thinking that I've probably fixed it. Obviously time will tell, but others that have done this have reported that it's been absolutely fine quite a long time afterwards. So I'm hoping that that's it. I'm also hoping that that was really useful for you. If it was, then subscribe and give it a like, and yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye-bye.